Good afternoon, everyone. My deepest condolences to each and every one of you. It's a blessing that we're all able to gather here today to mourn and to mark the passing and to celebrate the life of Jeffrey Gary Tenenbaum, son of Paul and Sylvia Tenenbaum. Jeffrey is survived by his son, Jeremy Tenenbaum, his brother, Erwin Skip Tenenbaum, his sister, Marlene Fisher, and brother-in-law, Richard, his nephews, Scott and Lance Fisher, and Patrick Murray, and Lance's fiancée, Rachel Puckett. He is survived by lifelong friends, Joe Marafiotti, Jim Shuck, Joe, Tom, and Kathy Casaragola, Joe and Marianne Stanzione, Joe Yogi Passaretti, Jim Wagman, Pete DiStefano, Jim Castle, and the late Frank Randy Atkins. Jeffrey is predeceased by his wife, Deborah Tenenbaum. My name is Zoe B. Zach, and I'm the Rabbi at Temple Israel of Catskill, and I'm truly honored to be here with each and every one of you today. In our tradition, we turn to the Psalms. We turn to the Psalms for really just about any occasion. We especially turn to them when we're in grief, when we're in mourning, and it is a tradition over 3,000 years old. So we're going to turn to Psalm 23. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. Making me to lie down in green pastures and leading me beside the still waters. Adonai restores my soul and guides me in straight paths for Adonai's name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of Adonai forever. I'm going to now offer that psalm in its original Hebrew. Adonai Elohim, lo echsar, binoteshem yarbitzeni, al me menuchot inaleni. Nafshi yishobev yancheni b'magle tzedek l'man shemo gam ki Begetz amavet lo irara ki ata imadi shivtecha umishantecha Lepanai shulchan neged zorai di shanta vashemen roshi kosi reva at this time, I'd like to invite Joe Marafiotti to come up and offer some words. And Joe, I want to offer you to take the left turn over there. And also, I apologize, we do have to keep our masks on.
That's okay, yep. I'm going to start with this. No Wyatt men. Can I actually put it here? I mean, that bag is part of it. It's just, you know. Okay. Oh, could you? Jeremy asked me to say a few words today. It's an honor for me. I was very close to Jeff, both as a friend and that we lived so close to each other all our lives. I knew Jeff as well as anyone, and here's my few words. I'm speaking for all of us who grew up with Jeff. We're a tight-knit group. My memories go so far back. When we were little, Jeff would come to my house and peek in through the front door screen looking for me. I remember him scaring my mom when he did that. He always did things a little differently. We all spent most of our time at either Jeff's or Randy's house. We played inside and outside, always coming up with something corny, but it was fun. Nobody got hurt. Even when Jeff got that BB rifle and used to pin me and Kaz down on Grace Court as we walked home from school. Jeff was also the great frog hunter with that gun. He actually built the golf course around St. Pat's High School. Father Hook loved Jeff, especially on Halloween. You guys know that. Once a bunch of us found old tires behind the gym. We decided to roll them down that hill by the gym. Everyone's tire flipped over at the bottom, except guess whose. Jeff's tire rolled down the hill, through the parking lot, across Woodland Ave, straight down the center of Grace Court and onto Spring Street where a car T-boned it. We all scattered, but the funny part is that everyone knew Jeff was involved, and that's who they were looking for. I was sitting on my front porch and Johnny Reddy walks up and asks if I see Jeff, because the Reddys lived on the corner of Spring and Grace Court. So we did many things like that. Jeff always wanted to share. If he had something or liked something, you had to know about it. You had to know about it from him. He introduced me to matzo brie because I had to try it. And he loved the carnival. He was relentless trying to get me on the skydiver. He finally prevailed. His passion for music was incredible. He loved Black Sabbath and Deep Purple. Joey, you have to listen to this album. He did that to all of us. When something meant that much to him, he had to share it, or at least talk about it all the time. We listened to a lot of music together, went to many concerts, watched a ton of sports on TV. I remember sitting in his living room with his mom and dad watching football. We actually watched The Catch from Joe Montana to Dwight Clark at Jeff's house. That's for Jim Shuck. And anyway, we got older, we got cars, but Jeff had that big Impala. As long as we could keep him awake, he drove. We told him we were going for food somewhere after a night at the Klondike or something else where we were. Basically, Jeff cherished his friends. He had a way of over-explaining everything. He had to let us know, and that's what I feel was his best quality. Just total openness and no mean words about others. If he considered you a friend, accept it. It meant the world to him. To this day, I wish he'd drop by on a Saturday while I'm busy and just hang out and drink my beer. Or him calling me to help fix his leaky sink or unclog the toilet because he had a fish that got too big and he flushed it. Usually Debbie would just roll her eyes and we would laugh about it. I miss Debbie. I was honored to be able to sit with her while she was very ill. I was his best man, and I guess that's part of being that. Anyway, these few words are just a small part of my friend Jeff. The guys that are here today that I grew up alongside could spend all day talking about him. It's all good. Last time I saw you, Jeff, we had a beer together. I knew you enjoyed it because you had that smile and you knew I was there. And finally, that comes to this Leonard Skinner album, because he, like I said about the music, that if there was something he had and he wanted you to listen to this album, you had to. And he bugged me about this, and so finally one day I'm sitting on my front porch, and there comes Jeff walking up the street, onto my front porch, he hands me that album, he goes, you gotta listen to this album. He bought it for me. And the bags are, he said burn pellets, but he had to have a certain kind of pellet. It was, Jeremy knows. And these are the bags that came in, and he saved every bag for me, empty, so I could use them again for garbage or something. He always, I have hundreds of them. So that's all I have to say right now, and finally to Jeff McKeim. That's, you always said that. McKeim, I don't know. I love you, Jeff.
Thank you.
And I'd like to invite Joe Casaragola to
Yes.
come up and offer some words. Thank you.
Ditto what he said. So, yeah, I mean, I've known Jeff since fourth grade when we built the house in Grace Court, and there's so many stories we all have. My first encounter with Jeff is when we were driving up the street when the lot was getting ready, before he even started development. And there was this young kid sitting on the lot with his new saw, and he cut down the only tree my dad wanted to save. And I was like, who is this guy? But it turned out to be a great friend right across the street. There's so many stories. We've all been relaying them all. And part of what Joey said, he was a truly genuine person. You know, we always would say, Jeff is Jeff. And in retrospect, it's because he was just genuine. You knew where you stood with him, and you knew where he stood. And, what more can you ask, right? The other thing, I have to recognize Tootsie as well, because I think, you know, we used to drive her nuts. You know, she did so much around the house and in the store, and I think that all rubbed off on Jeff. He saw the care that she gave your mom, and that's kind of the legacy with Jeremy, right? He did that for Debbie, and now Jeremy returned it again to Jeff. We're all blessed to have known. God bless him.
So I just wanted to invite, in case anyone else wanted to come up and speak and offer a few words. No one should feel they have to, but if anyone feels moved to, you're more than welcome.
Hey everybody, I wasn't planning on speaking today, but I just wanted to Joey and Joe Kaz, that was awesome. That's an awesome way to remember my father. I want to first just thank each and every one of you for taking the time to come out, you know, and join me in the morning today. I mean, few people know my father like I do. Jeff. I know he was always so great to his friends and his family. Around the house, you know, he was a little bit of a pain in the neck sometimes with Mom and I. Yeah, the bona fide bargain hunter. Always, you know, just, you know, very, like, I don't think anyone I've ever met was, like, so, like in charge of, like, you know, the house like Dad was. Like, you know, always being proactive that, you know, something needed to get fixed before it was even broken, and he was like, you know, so great with the lawn and everything. You know, he was just like, you know, he just like, he knew how to take care of his property and his possessions, you know, and you know, he knew how to treat the people that, you know, he loved and he held dear. So, I do want to share, I'd like to share a couple funny stories. My father, especially on vacation, I know some of you have told about this pretty recently. You know that cliche, like, you know, someone always looks like a tourist and dresses like a tourist when they go on vacation. so they put a big target on themselves. My dad was a little bit like that. He was kind of like the ditzy tourist at times. I remember our San Francisco trip back in 2012, our last day there. We did, they have like those double-decker buses with like the open roofs. So we did one of those bus tours that takes you around the whole city, the whole metropolitan area, and across the Golden Gate. You know, you see like really so much of the Bay Area just on that one tour. So we get to a district in San Francisco called Haight-Ashbury, also known as the hippie district. So it's it's kind of, a lot of it is still a lot of the shops and everything still kind of resemble what it was like during the counterculture movement in the '60s and stuff. So of course where do we get off the bus other than there? That was Dad's idea. So we get off. We're about to start heading up the main street there just to check out the stores and stuff. And I see like kind of like this sketchy group of young people. They're kind of, they got blankets and stuff, they're set up on the sidewalk, some of them are playing guitars and stuff. And I'm just thinking like, okay, well I know what city we're in. And, I'm thinking like, how about, we cross the street here and avoid that group of people, because I don't know about them. Of course, Mom and Dad, they walk right through them. And one of the girls tries to sell my dad weed. right in San Francisco. And instead of trying to cold shoulder them, he just with a big smile just says, "No, thank you, I'm good. Have a good day." So then on the way back, we check out some of the shops. So on the way back, we come down the hill. And there's that same group of young adults there, and right near where the bus comes to pick us up. And I'm thinking like, all right, how about this time we avoid them? Nope. Dad walks right through them again. They probably try to sell him drugs again. Who knows? He was always like so naive and so innocent when it came to like that kind of stuff, shenanigans. But I would say the other. Oh, and he was almost kicked off of that double-decker bus for standing up too soon, because of the open roof. Everyone that sits on the upper level, they have to stay seated until the bus comes to a full stop. A couple times he tried to stand up a little early to snap some pictures before other people stood up. And then the tour guide had to warn him, like, "Sir, this is your second warning." And I'm like, my mom and I are like, "Dad, if you get kicked off this bus, Mom and I are staying. Gets the next one. Like, come on, like a kid can follow his directions." So yeah. But yeah, like I said, it was, we laugh about it in retrospect. I would say the other funny story from vacation, it was our first trip down to Tampa, Florida. We went over to the Gulf Coast, this place called Treasure Island. It was a nice trip. We went during the off season, so like there wasn't crowds of people or anything. We really had a good time. So the last day we started heading back to the Tampa airport. And this was, before smartphones, before cars had built-in GPS. You had to actually research your directions and print them out and bring them with you. So, so Dad, I think he forgot to do his little MapQuest directions for the way back to the airport. He thought he'd probably just wing it or something. So, I think we probably jumped on a wrong interstate, took the wrong exit or something. So Dad's just like, I gotta, I'm gonna have to stop and ask someone because I know we're not on the right road here. So who else does he ask? But some guy on like one of those riding mowers. He's like doing the whole property in front of like a mall. Just some landscape worker. No, let's not stop at a convenience store or anything. Let's let's stop and ask this guy. And my mom and I are just like, "Dad, the guy's working. Well, why don't we stop somewhere else?" He pulls over. The guy's not even paying attention to us. He's got his earmuffs in. He kind of finishes a pass, starts going away from us. As Dad's getting out of the car, he starts running after him. And I'm like, Mom and I are just like, what is he doing? It's like anyone driving by, like, he must look like a maniac or something. He's like chasing down some guy on a riding mower. Eventually the guy kind of turns, sees Dad, stops, and he must have told him something that, that worked because we got right to the airport after that. But, oh my God. Like I said, like my dad just his way with people, doesn't matter the context or anything. He'll just smile and be polite and everything. But yeah, it was. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. And I do want to say, obviously nobody, during the time that he had Alzheimer's disease, no one spent more time with him than I did. And I've frequently mentioned a lot of your names. And I talked about you guys, family and friends and everybody. And, I would say, obviously toward the end, he couldn't really communicate much back. But I know in the, years ago, in the early stages, his face would light up, he would smile, he would say, yeah, I know them. So, I want you all to know that, all the way through it, you guys were all, still in his thoughts. And, I know he loved you. I told him every time that I loved him, your family loves you, your friends love you, they're always asking me about you. So I let him know that all the time, so he knew that.
What very moving tributes to your father that all three of you gave. I did not have the honor of knowing your father, your brother, your friend. And I'm so glad to learn from all of you about him. And I'm so glad to hear that you've been sharing stories. And it's everyone's honor, really, to keep sharing those stories, to keep sharing them with each other, to keep passing along the good deeds. I mean, how many people have friends from their childhood, from their early childhood, and keep them for decades? Nowadays, really, it's not that common. And Jeremy, that you want to, on the day of that we're burying your father, that you want to come and assure everyone how much they meant to your father is so beautiful. So what I'm learning is the good person that your father was and how he cared for his loved ones and how he passed that to you, and you're doing that as well. It's very beautiful. So we have in our tradition a memorial prayer. And before I offer the memorial prayer, I just want to say this. I know, Jeremy, you have Father Scott, and I'm so glad you do. I don't know a finer clergy person than my friend and colleague, Father Scott. And I just also want to say, even though we've recently met, that I'm here for the family, for friends. One death tends to make us remember our other losses. And so for anyone that's having a hard time, anyone that's struggling, I just want to encourage you to reach out to each other, reach out to your support systems. And if I can be of any help or support in any way, I'm very easy to reach. You can ask here at the funeral home, you can call the temple, you can have my cell number. If anyone wants to reach out, anytime. So at this time, I'm going to invite you to rise, please, for the memorial prayer. So in our tradition, it's really beautiful. A person is not just known by their name, but by their name that they are son or daughter of who they come from. As a reminder that we're all connected to those, our loved ones who came before us. So I'll read this first in English, and then again I'll offer it in the original Hebrew. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Jeffrey, Gary Tenenbaum, son of Paul and Sylvia, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace, and let us all say, Amen. El malerachamim shochen b'marumim hamseh menucha nechona tachat kanfei השכינה b'malot kiddushim u'torim בזוהר הרקיע, מזהירים את נשמת Jeffrey, son of Paul and Sylvia, שהלך לעולמו. בגן עדן תהא מנוחתו, אנא בעל הרחמן, אז תראהו בסתר, כי נהפך לעולמי. וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו, אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו ונאמר Amen. Please be seated. So I want to invite our funeral director, Bob Bawes, who's going to now give us further directions.